Good day to all viewers. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kozlova Elena. I am a practicing obstetrician-gynecologist, a physician with 20 years of experience, nutritionist and a specialist in ultrasound diagnostics. We are going to talk to you today about a very interesting topic. There is a new product in the Greenway Global range in Europe, Intilia Daily Pads. We will talk to you about the features of the new product. I will try to explain their merits, from the point of view of a practitioner. Well, do not forget that I am a woman, plus I am the mother of a teenage girl. I will share my own opinion with you. Why do I propose to use Intilia pads, and not other gaskets from the mass market? Let's start our meeting with some good news. More than a year ago, I met the developer of new gaskets. I would like to thank her for the work done and the initial research. I am glad that Greenway Global decided to create and produce these gaskets. Yes, today we will talk about the Intilia brand, and more specifically about panty liners. Let's consider why they are so good and how they differ from others. There are peculiarities, we have something to discuss. It must be said that most of the daily pads that are currently on sale in the mass market, in ordinary shops near the house, unfortunately, are made of various synthetic materials. I emphasize, the synthetic materials. Just think about how long it will take for a given pad to decompose. Just one pad. Let me give you the answer, 500 to 800 years. If you start to think, it is incredibly frightening how we litter the environment. And now let's think about how many pads a woman uses during her life. Have any of you thought about this question? In fact, even gynecologists do not think about it. And when they start to analyze how many menstrual cycles a woman has, they start to think about how many daily pads they can use. So, over the course of a lifetime, the average woman can use up to 7,000 daily pads. Can you imagine that? Now think about the fact that mass-market gaskets are a product of oil refining, something that decomposes for 500 to 800 years. Wait a minute, I'm certainly not a mathematician. But if all these numbers are summed up and multiplied by how many women live on planet Earth today, to be honest, it becomes scary. I'm sure you do too. This is talking about statistics, the disadvantages of the current situation, and now let's get to the pros. I emphasize the company's goal is to create environmentally friendly products not only for women, but also for planet Earth. That is, Greenway Global says that quality is above all. A woman who uses daily unnatural pads comes into contact with silicone every day. Thus, she may have diseases. I can tell you about the diseases that very often develop in this case. I'll give you an example. Let's take today's appointment with one of my patients. Patients come to see me and say, "Doctor, I am worried about my state of health, itching, irritation. This is disturbing." The patient says that she goes to different doctors, but no one can help. I have already tried a huge number of suppositories, a huge number of drugs, nothing helps. And most importantly, the patient says that when she is examined by gynecologists, they do not reveal any pathological markers. This is where you should stop and think. Perhaps the patient is under-examined, or maybe everything is fine with her health in general, but perhaps she just uses pads that contain silicone. These pads, unfortunately, are presented in huge quantities on the mass market. What do they have in their composition? First, they contain the so-called cotton. Yes, I will sometimes show certain gestures, I will say why. The cotton that is declared on the box seems to be clean and good. But in fact it is bleached with chlorine. Chlorine. The breakdown product of chlorine, an intermediate substance, is called dioxin. And dioxin itself is a huge, powerful epoxidant. And just imagine. It evaporates, comes into contact with the mucous membrane of the external genitalia and causes irritation. A woman, using daily low-quality pads, falls into a vicious circle. She has more and more vaginal itching and discharges, over time she has irritation. Almost every woman has faced this, unfortunately. I hope that today the majority of women are present at our training. I am also a woman. And of course, like no one else, I understand women. Because when there is discomfort in the intimate area, it becomes very unpleasant. Dioxin itself can cause changes in reproductive function. It can even change immunity. And each person has his own immunity. Imagine the following. Each person has a certain microflora on the external genitalia. Here is immunity and opportunistic flora. And when immunity decreases, the opportunistic flora as it was, at this level, it remained. Only the prefix conditionally goes away and the pathogenic flora remains. Thus, dioxin causes a decrease in immunity and contributes to the fact that the opportunistic flora passes into the pathogenic flora and begins to actively develop. In pads of other brands, here they are so beautiful for me. Lie on the table. They contain plastic wrap for the waterproof layer, which does not absorb anything. Polyethylene is a product of petroleum refining. For me personally, the word oil refining itself already sounds somehow not very good. What does it do? The polyethylene layer creates a greenhouse effect, as a result of which our opportunistic flora, which has passed into the pathogenic flora, begins to develop and multiply. Thus, a woman begins to appear vaginal dysbiosis, vaginal candidiasis. All clinical manifestations will be, and laboratory tests will not show a diagnosis. That is, in order for accumulation to occur, a huge amount of time must pass. And the woman falls into a vicious circle. The more discharge becomes, the more often she has to use those pads that do not breathe. Although all manufacturers tell us that their daily pads are breathable. As if refreshing, as the manufacturers tell us. In fact, this is not the case. Here my colleagues put samples of daily pads from different manufacturers. If you can see them, they are painted. These are flavored pads. Here are painted. If you can see, there is aromatization. What is it? These are also additional ecotoxicants and allergens. That is, they additionally create a load on our female body in an unprotected area, the genitals. It seems to me that a woman's quality of life depends on how well she feels. Comfortable or uncomfortable, she feels. This is critically important. And now I want to tell you about another product. I am very glad that earlier the Intilia brand released an amazing gel for intimate hygiene. This is a very good gel for intimate hygiene. Why? Because it consists of a probiotic. The gel contains lactic acid, so when using it, the pH level in the intimate sphere does not change. Gel for intimate hygiene should be used at least twice a day, as well as daily pads. My patients sometimes say that they want to remove panty liners because there is an unpleasant smell. And when a woman loves herself, she appreciates her well-being and health, and, of course, she will use natural products and those products that contain natural remedies. This is her conscious choice. So, the pH of a woman in the intimate sphere should be acidic. Here she is alkaline, her mouth is alkaline. And when patients tell me that they can, excuse me, wash themselves with shower gel or shower soap, this is absolutely not suitable. And here I would like to move on to our topic, what we have the most interesting today. Do you see? I'll show you what the pads look like. I talked a little about the gel for intimate hygiene, because for me this is also a hot topic. As a gynecologist, I always talk about the gel for intimate hygiene, which should be with the correct pH. Now I always talk about daily pads, and specifically what they should be. Ask me why? See. Beautiful white pad, bleached cotton is declared here. In fact, there is no cotton in the pad. The brand produces a cotton pad. What is in the composition? Well, first of all, it's cotton. Cotton here is not bleached with chlorine, there is no exposure to chemical agents. The cotton here is bleached with a specially oxygen composition, which is approved for use. The composition contains linen. What is linen? Linen, the interweaving of fibers. I will conditionally show, the interweaving of cotton and linen. They're together. What do they give? Sorry if I deviate a little from the topic. Cotton has very good qualities, it penetrates, it breathes, it passes air. It does not retain moisture, most importantly it is hypoallergenic. Linen also has hypoallergenic properties. Linen has impressive properties, these are bacterial properties, it neutralizes bacteria, an opportunistic flora that we have, and it minimizes its impact. This is an important hygiene point. What else is in the composition? We talked about the fact that pads, which are represented by most manufacturers today in our market, manufacturers use glue for their base. This is also a product from oil refining. And a waterproof layer, also made of refined petroleum products. How do you like these components? Makes you think. Look, I was given an intimate hygiene gel Intilia, amazing, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you today about pads, but for me, as a gynecologist, intimate care is also an important issue, that's why I pay so much attention to it. We need to talk about hygiene from different perspectives. Cleanliness, hygiene and health are synonyms. It is necessary to teach proper hygiene to girls from adolescence. When they begin hormonal changes, they need to be taught how to use proper hygiene products. Then in the future, they will not have problems. It is easier to form the right habits from the very beginning. Then you protect your own health and you will not need to see a doctor. Shower gel is not suitable for intimate hygiene. But gel for intimate hygiene, yes. With a good composition. Most of the composition should be natural ingredients, lactic acid, which will normalize the microflora of our vagina and microbiocenosis of the external genital organs. Returning to our InPads. What else is included in their composition, in addition to cotton and linen? We talked to the manufacturer about why the cotton is so high quality, and why it is so good. A little later I will give you a comparative description of the drugs used to treat the external genitalia candidiasis, dysbiosis and the use of pads. Hoku raskazat. That. The sticky substance that is part of Intilia pads is natural rubber. Corn and potato starch are also used in the composition. This is the back protective wall, which waterproof. It contains siliconized paper, which is very quickly recyclable. Thus, the brand manufacturer thought about how important it is not only to improve the quality of the intimate sphere of girls and women, but also to take care of the environment. That is, this must also be remembered, given the frequency of use of these pads. See how convenient the packaging is. Why? I can say that I now have such a package in my bag. And it is very convenient to transport. There is a protective valve here, that is, you got one pad. Applied it for its intended purpose and closed the package so that it will not be opened with you. The developers have made the packaging biodegradable, which is environmentally friendly. Regarding pads. Of course, we women in the 21st century are used to convenience. We can no longer do without it. When we really need intimate hygiene products, especially on days when you use medications, when you treat the external genitalia. When you use suppositories, when you use any medications, of course, you need protection. When there is a period of ovulation. At this time, all women have a greater amount of discharge. Of course. It is necessary to use daily pads. When you are flying or driving somewhere, when you do not have the opportunity to carry out individual personal hygiene, which is recommended to be carried out 2 to 3 times a day. And it is very important to note that due to the fact that cotton, which is contained here, it breathes. Of course, any pad, no matter what kind of pad, has a lifespan of 3 to 4 hours. But due to the fact that this pad absorbs and breathes, it does not create the microclimate that will change the microbiocenosis of your vagina. Therefore, women, here you need to think, of course, about what will be more useful for you, what will not be more comfortable and safer for you. You need to take into account these advantages. It will be necessary to tell those people with whom you will cooperate that the quality of this pads is much more important than those silicone because they do not breathe, they absorb. Excuse me, there are some unpleasant discharges. Then there will be complaints, then there will be discomfort in well-being. This pad is suitable for daily. Throughout the year, including in the hot season. That is, you will not experience the discomfort that may occur when using other pads. What else did I want to tell? And also, I would like to thank Greenway for what it does, to thank the developers who have done a huge, gigantic work on research and then its production. They brought me a glass of water. In fact, it will be possible later, to show the pad how it all happens. Representatives of the company conducted a study. They simply cut the silicone pads and set them on fire. And believe me, the smell is simply disgusting for those daily pads that are presented on the mass market. Unfortunately, there are also manufacturers who today declare one thing on the packaging, but in fact the product contains another. And it can also be very disappointing when the pad is declared cotton, but in fact, some huge number of microorganisms already live on it, which will also lead to certain diseases. And if we touch on the topic of diseases, because I started talking about immunity, which is declining. Since I am a gynecologist, people often come to me with questions about reproductive function. We need to think about the fact that a high-quality pad will preserve our reproductive system. But the fact that pads on the mass market contain decay products dioxin, unfortunately, will worsen. And at the same time, it can lead to the fact that various diseases can develop. I am not afraid to say that in the reproductive sphere it can lead to infertility. Even the World Health Organization made a note that 60% of women's diseases, unfortunately, can occur due to a poor quality manufacturer, due to low-quality pads. We ourselves are responsible for our health. We need to think about how important our intimate sphere is to us, how important it is for us to take care of ourselves, how much we need to maintain our intimate health. Women are the most beautiful creatures in the world. Because women give energy. To whom? To men. Women, of course. They give inspiration, a smile, joy. And if she is comfortable, including in the intimate sphere, it means that she is calm, it means that the world around her will rejoice with her, including the male world will also rejoice. The 21st century has forced us to reconsider many things. He forced us to approach globally. And the company claims that these are global health changes for the better. I am very happy. I've talked about it, I'm talking about it, and I will continue to talk about it. The product is not in vain released for sale. In my recommendations, in addition to the hygiene of the external genitalia, these pads for daily use will also be present. After all, the company develops exactly what we all women want. Something that we use all the time. We use it without harm to our own health and harm to the outside world. The Harivnia company is moving by leaps and bounds across the planet. She's conquering the networked world, and that's amazing. Because when people think about their health, about the health of others and loved ones, and are not indifferent to the state of the planet, this is a huge positive moment. If you have any questions, then they can be set. I will try to answer in detail from the point of view of a gynecologist. Let's take a look at the question sent in advance. Well, here I will immediately note that you should not throw pads into the sewer, you need to dispose of them as household waste. And from how old is it recommended to use them? Look, I have already touched on the topic of puberty. That is, girls, when they enter a hormonal surge, when they begin puberty, then, of course, they can already be recommended the use of daily pads. Hormonal changes affect the condition of the girl. Now the girls are getting earlier, so to speak, 12 to 13 years old. Even from the age of 10. If the girl begins to have more abundant discharge, of course, she must be taken to a gynecologist in order to exclude any pathological condition. And if, according to the results of the tests, everything is fine, everything is normal, then it means that the girl is already entering puberty, she can be recommended to use these pads. Therefore, from the age of 13 it can definitely be used. About daily use. How can you use them every day? Can be used every day, but if there is something that bothers you. I usually tell my patients this. When the critical days are over, you can use daily pads. Ovulation, you need to use. Medications, need to be used. And, of course, moving, travel also needs to be used. About the benefits of linen. I've already mentioned to you earlier, that it has amazing bacterial properties, that is, it disinfects and it minimizes the spread of microorganisms. Which everyone has. Yes, any questions? Yes. There are questions. Do pads cause irritation? Let's discuss. Anything that contains fragrance, anything that is cleanly bleached, anything that contains synthetic components, will always be irritating. This is no secret, because most women use exactly what is available on the mass market. With our pads, it's the exact opposite situation. You don't have to worry. Why? By my own example and the example of my family, I will say that it does not cause irritation. My child is a teenager, but I am also a woman, I would like to share my feelings. After using Intilia pads, I have no discomforts, no changes, no negative moments. Next question. Is it suitable for heavy discharge? Of course, it is certainly suitable. Can the change of conventional daily pads from the mass market to Intilia pads to solve the problem of thrush disease? You know, this is such a practical question, I can't say yes to it yet, but you can try. Why do I say that? If Candida is not detected in the test results, here again, I have already touched on this issue earlier, if Candida is not present in the smear, and there are manifestations of thrush, it can be redness, swelling, itching, burning, irritation, we do not take curd discharge, then yes. Now, if the cheesy discharge you see is 100% vulvovaginal candidiasis, it means that you already need to treat it first, and then improve the quality, because without treatment, it is not enough just to change the daily pads. And if the smears are fine, everything is perfect, there is only discharge, please switch to Intilia pads, observe and draw a conclusion. And share your experience with me, and I will already develop my practice, which I will then be able to answer certain questions, form my clinical experience. If mass market pads are so dangerous, why won't they be banned? Dear listeners, these are marketing moves. This is a huge business. We are not discussing this here, but, unfortunately, today most manufacturers think little about health, to the great regret of gynecologists. At our meeting, we say that it is very important to think not only about the health and well-being of a person, but also about human health and well-being. But it's important to think about the health of the planet. We live here, we walk here, we eat. Apply our knowledge, use resources. That is, our task is to improve our quality of life, to improve the quality of life of others. Those daily pads, unfortunately, which are present on the market, have a certain low quality. A certain availability, and most of the manufacturers do not enter the market because they believe that it is not profitable for them. Although in fact, if you think about how important it is to take care of yourself, for most of us, I can say that I would definitely switch to these pads and I will transfer all my patients. This is an important step. What diseases can lead to the use of conventional panty liners? I will not name specific manufacturers, I will only answer in general. Specifically, there are studies on manufacturing firms, which were taken in most of the pads that are present on the market today. Those synthetic materials that are present in them change the reproductive function. They can trigger the process due to the products that are contained because both the dyes and fragrances that are present in the composition of the pads are powerful allergens and toxins. They can start some kind of inflammatory process. That is, they can disrupt reproductive function, they can cause various diseases. That is, they can change a lot. Think and assess the risk that a poor quality pad can change not only the intimate sphere but also the general condition of the body as a whole. When a person thinks about it, he will think first of all about how to avoid it. Would you like to avoid? I would like to avoid, to be honest. My task is to live to be 100 years old in good health and in a good quality of life. Of course, I will try to use what is natural, what is more comfortable to use, and what will not cause any changes in my health. Is it possible to use pads, Intilia, in the diagnosis of vulvar leukoplakia? Yes, I will say yes here. But when there is a diagnosis of vulvar leukoplakia, most likely, if a woman asked a question, she has already encountered this, and she has undergone some kind of treatment. And there is any amount of discharge, here you can use something that will be more carefully suitable for the external genitalia. Therefore, Intilia panty pads can be used. Regarding my clinical experience, here is an example of today's practice. Every day 1 to 2 patients, and as a result, hundreds of patients come with complaints. With clinical manifestations, but without laboratory evidence. That is, this suggests that many women who use gaskets from the mass market fall into a vicious circle. When they have the same synthetic pads, they cause even more discharge, although there are no clinical diseases. That is, the patient is forced to use the gasket more often, she has more discharge, she uses it again, and falls into this vicious circle. Wanting to help herself, she harms herself. I have high hopes for the Intilia brand and these panty pads. Why? Because, as a gynecologist, I reason logically and I already understand that patients will not have to constantly use pads or change them because of increased discharge. Only when necessary. That is, when there are certain moments in the cycle of a healthy woman in which it is necessary to apply daily pads. But at least 14 days a month you will definitely use them. This is the residual discharge after critical days, this is the period of ovulation, and a few days before menstruation. Therefore, in any case, you will use them for your own convenience. By the way, I want to touch upon women not only of reproductive age, but also older women. This is the age of 45, 50, 65 plus, and they also sometimes need daily pads. It is necessary to take into account certain features of the body. Those pads that breathe, they will be more comfortable to use than those that do not breathe. And they will not cause them the changes that occur when using synthetic pads. To my great regret. What I see at my receptions causes certain experiences. I feel very sorry for women, because at the age of 45, 50, a woman finally gets back on her feet. She has already raised children, reached certain heights in her career, she becomes socially active, she wants to develop, and at this moment she has hormonal changes. That is, she enters the state of premenopause and subsequently menopause. And, of course, there are changes that you also want to minimize, and which you want to avoid, so as not to feel discomfort. In this case, Intilia daily pads will help out. What does your gynecologist think ideal intimate hygiene looks like so you don't get sick? As we have already said today, perfect intimate hygiene is very important. Gel for intimate hygiene, that is, it is fragrance-free, paraben-free, it is with a natural composition, without a negative effect on the genitals. That is, you will think about the fact that there should be an acidic environment, and here we should have an alkaline environment. Here too, we have an alkaline environment. Therefore, twice a day, in the morning, in the evening, please need an intimate shower. If additional is required, it means that women will apply 3 times a day. And the use of daily pads, when they are needed. When a woman learns to love yourself, take care of yourself, pay attention to your health and well-being exactly to the extent necessary, with the use of natural remedies. I pay special attention to natural components, because most manufacturers, declaring one thing, will describe something completely different in small print. When you go to a regular store near the house, you will look at what is written on the packaging in the compositions. And look at what is written here. Here the composition is absolutely natural. And to all your loved ones. To all my teenagers, because I am a doctor who works with girls from the age of 15. Especially for young girls, I hold promotions. Every Tuesday, 2 teenagers come almost for free, because the cost of admission costs a couple of cents. And of course, the kids and I. Why I'm talking to the kids, because we're still very young girls, we can talk about everything. We will talk about hygiene of the external genitalia, we will talk about how important it is to take care of yourself, how important it is to maintain your reproductive health, how important it is to feel and comfort, how important it is to maintain your health in general and the quality of your life as well. How many drops are on the package? Drops? There is 1 drop here. These are daily pads. They are used on a daily basis. I even thought about this question. A question about gel for intimate hygiene. Should it be used by women who have menopause? Of course, yes, absolutely. And what is the difference between a woman and a woman who does not have menopause? Yes, of course. Dear ones, believe me, the fact that a woman, regardless of age, is 15 years old, I just work with 15-year-old girls too, she is 15, 25, 40, 65 or 90, she doesn't change. So, of course, yes. Women of the most advanced age, at my receptions, are 90 plus. Of course. Gel for intimate hygiene is also suitable for them. And at what age do you recommend gel for intimate hygiene? I would recommend the gel first puberty in girls. Gel for intimate hygiene. You can teach girls to wash. I think that they, like monkeys, begin to repeat everything after their mothers. It's just that I also teach all my teenagers, because many children come, and they don't know how to carry out intimate hygiene. We can. I am sure that we can recommend it from 10 to 11 years. Although you can, excuse me, learn to wash sometimes 1 to 2 times a week. I think it is possible from a younger age, 7. They are already realized, they already understand what it is for. About pads. How often do they need to be changed and in what situations even more often? Every 3 hours. The waste product of the pad is 3 hours. That is, after 3 hours it must be removed and thrown away. This is recommended not only by manufacturers, it is recommended by all gynecologists in the world. This is recommended to do. In any case, no matter how breathable it is. All the same, its lifespan is 3, maximum 4 hours. If you have a lot of discharge, you will change it more often. But, believe me, when the pad is natural, you will be out of the loop. This will have a favorable effect on your well-being and health. It seems to me that you will not have as much discharge that occurs when using synthetic silicone gaskets. How do I dispose of pads? Throw away pads. Since there is no special container for them. That is, they can be disposed of as household waste. We dispose of it as household waste. How to choose a gel? It's a personal preference of each of us. It's the composition that counts. This is the one I love very much. Is it possible and necessary to use the gel for men? You can, yes. But men's external genitalia do not have acidic pH. Let's just say that this will be an additional cost for them. But of course, you can share. And have one gel for intimate hygiene in the family. It is still designed for women, so that our pH does not change, and acidic environment remains. And male external genitalia have a more alkaline environment. Therefore, they can use other means. Another question about pads. That is, if there was no discharge in 3 or 4 hours, then it was still necessary to change? You know, if there was no discharge, you can just remove it, and that's it. And be with your underwear. But if you have discomfort, let's just say, or you have some clothes, or you are in a hot country, or something else, and you are afraid that you will have some kind of discharge, it is better to have a pad. Let's look further. I think in today's meeting about daily pads I tried to emphasize as much as possible